Hey guys, Kamina the Koach here. So I'm forcing out energy today because I just don't physically feel well, and that's what this video is gonna be about. Like, I just really haven't felt physically well since moving to Southeast Asia. So one thing you can count on from my channel when we're talking about issues of living abroad, one thing I'm always going to do is be very honest with you on my take of things. And that is not to discredit other people's perception and other people's experience. All I can tell you is I've been doing this for almost a decade, and I can only tell you about my experience. So there's that. And you can always count on a very honest experience, honest recap of my experience. So I don't have long today. I gotta get ready to get out of here to go to work. So I just want to talk about this because there's been some discussion in the teachers group about this lately. So today is like February 18th, 2020. If you're watching this at a different time, most likely. And so we're in Personally, I feel like in the downswing of the coronavirus epidemic. So, to my knowledge from following the news of the coronavirus, which I only follow news abroad that directly affects me, and since I'm in Southeast Asia, it does. As far as I know, the only deaths from the coronavirus outside of China have been one in Japan and one in the Philippines. And again, I return to the one video that I did about trying to avoid fear. Don't buy into mass panic and mass hysteria. There to date reported there were 900 deaths. When we're talking about how many people are in China, I mean, just it's horrible. The death of 900 souls, that's horrible. But relatively speaking, how many people are in China, that's a pretty low number for an epidemic, comparatively speaking. This is more at this point than SARS, but the virus itself is not as bad as SARS, not as strong as SARS. The reason probably that it's more is because they tried to sweep it under the rug for a bit longer. They tried to deny that it was real. I'm not going to talk about any conspiracy theories, and we're not going to talk about mass hysteria and all that stuff. What this video is about is cleanliness and hygiene abroad. And for some people, it maybe it doesn't make any difference. Maybe you're not, in general, you're not somebody who is concerned with these things. But for the rest of us, it can be a little bit nightmarish. So I had to measure my expectations going to China my first time. Uh, we ate when I got there, when we arrived to my basically village in northern China. We ate on the street, and they basically, so she was like, "What do you like to eat?" I was like, "Well, I like chicken." So they like chopped up the whole chicken with the cleaver, the whole chicken, like guts and bones and all that stuff. And it's very normal in China for them to suck the marrow out of the bones. And she's like, "What's the problem?" I'm like, "Oh, no problem." So, I did the best to kind of eat around the bones and the entrails and stuff. So we were going around town to handle business before I started work the next day. So we needed to start a bank account and blah, blah, blah. So in the midst of all of this, my stomach did a flip. I was like, I have to use the bathroom now. She was like, "Oh, there's only going to be squatties around here." I was like, "That's fine." She took me to a hospital, and it was a little shocking. It was more like those old movies where you see kids living in boarding schools. Like, it was more like that. Everything was kind of green, and I don't know. And the bathroom was just kind of this hole in the floor, kind of like a closet. But it was fine. I had to go. I was sick, so whatever. It was fine. It was clean-ish. I So in China, I saw just we're going just down the road, and there's like a woman taking a wee on the side of the road, and there are like it's a squatty that's like this. So there's like no door, it's just like a wall. And you like and there's a men's here and a women's like right next to each other. And it's just like a hole. When we were going to the mountain, we went and climbed a mountain. We had to ride the bus to the mountain, and so I was like, I have to go. We were drinking a lot of water because we were going to be climbing, and they were like, okay, well, there'll be a stop here. You can go here. And we walked around the corner. I was like, where is it? They're like, right there. And there's just a trough, just a cement hole in the ground, like a trough like hole, with a lot of bare booties lined up. Um, at the school as well, there's just partitions in between each, and there's no like door. There's a trough that runs in between, like down the middle of the partition. And so everybody's sharing the same trough. So there's no way to there's like continually running water. Who knows where that's coming from? There is a place to wash your hands, but there's no soap. The kids lived in the school and there's no running water except for the sinks. So there's no showers. The kids had no heat and no AC. It taught me some things about myself. Definitely my first time abroad, it was a humbling experience. And definitely one of those paying your dues type experience. Those who are just coming abroad now probably live in a very different situation because China's changed quite a bit. Even that little village has changed quite a bit since back then. So what are you getting at, Kamina? So what I'm getting at is unless you're going to teach in Dubai, even Riyadh, even Riyadh had, its moments depending on where you are. I definitely wasn't sick in the Middle East though. And aside from that one time, I wasn't really sick in China. And I lived in China twice, one time in the north and one time in near Shanghai. And honestly, even though China is still relatively far behind, I didn't really have any problems there. Thailand also, I didn't really have any problems in Thailand, aside from being worked like a slave in the field. So then I took a position in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I was there 10 days. I had a sinus infection almost immediately from the quality of the air. There's almost never any blue sky there. The quality of air is really bad. I got food poisoning and had to go to a doctor. The nurses were really nasty to me. The doctor was pretty nice, and he wanted to admit me. I'm like, oh, with the nurses treating me like this? No. And pretty expensive too. So I was only there 10 days and was in the hospital and had a sinus infection. So now I am here where I'm at now in formerly Burma. And air quality is not great, although most days you can see, blue sky. The air quality is not great because it's a newly opened country, and so there's a lot of burning still going on. And when I say burning, I don't mean like deforestation burning. I just mean like people burning trash, people burning to keep warm, people burning to cook, and then of course the unregulated EPA on cars. So that's why my voice sounds like this. Coughing up stuff constantly. I've scaled back on meat hugely, but it's not the meat. I'm not sure what it is, the water or what. I don't know. But I've been sick at my stomach since I arrived here in November. I'm sick constantly. Um, it's nothing, and the standard for hygiene is probably 50 years behind Thailand here. And mind you, Thailand still has a ways to go, but it's still, 50 years behind Thailand. And I hear there's another woman in my teachers group talking about her struggle in Indonesia. So I just want to measure people's expectations. I also lived with a woman when I was teaching in Iraq, and yeah, Iraq is pretty hot until the winter time, and she would shower like every other day. And when she would eat, she would just like trail food on the floor. And so then we'd end up with ants, and that she'd just step over the ants. We had a mouse mice infestation. We had mice, and I mean, we trapped lots of mice, a lot, probably 6 or 7, and she was not phased by that at all. Um, she would exercise in the house, and then like she would exercise. She bought an exercise bike, put it in our extra room, and would exercise naked and then walk through the house without her clothes on. So, yeah, I'm a little, in addition to being really clean, I'm fairly modest. I was a little gross. So, we're talking about hygiene and cleanliness abroad. Measure your expectations. Unless you're, so for contractors, you just don't really have to deal with that. For contractors, lucky you, you're going to be in general in a much better situation. You're either going to be on a post, or you'll be in a compound. If you're in the Middle East, you'll be on a compound or have an apartment. It'll probably be much nicer than a non-licensed teacher will get. But again, then I return to, guys, get licensed. You know, a licensed teacher with experience is going to live a much better, more comfortable life in these countries. And, you know, there's a woman that I work with who's a licensed teacher, but she doesn't have enough experience to work where her boyfriend is. Her boyfriend's making $5,000 a month here, and he's from Chile, and round trip tickets and full medical insurance and blah, blah, blah. So you can live a much more comfortable life in these places, but you need to have the credentials to back it up. And even in that situation, that's not going to protect you from the quality of air. I have a nice place. My place isn't bad. Not just not bad, my place is nice. But that's not enough. I'm sick every day. So I just want you guys to understand, measure your expectations. Maybe come visit Southeast Asia. And still, even visiting doesn't give you a fair expectation of what to really expect. So I'm going to get to work now. Wishing you love, light, peace, and joy. Hope I didn't burst your bubble. Just being honest, just giving you the real. Measure your expectations on hygiene. Carry some hand sanitizer in your purse, wallet, fanny pack, and the small things of Kleenex wherever you go in Southeast Asia. In Asia, just how about that? So we'll see you next time. Love, peace, and joy. Kamina the Koach. We'll see you next time. Peace.